talk a lot about structures and how I got into the Bigfoot world. And I need to stand at the mic. And so I'm going to be showing you slides of that. How I got into this is I didn't believe in the Bigfoot. I was one of those that thought, oh, people are crazy who believe in the Bigfoot. And my husband was watching the Bigfoot TV shows on TV and he believed in them, but I didn't. And I live right around this area, not far from here. And then all of a sudden one night around 2:30 in the morning, I hear this loud sound in my backyard. Now, I live smack in the middle of a subdivision. I am surrounded by houses. I don't live on the outskirts of the subdivision. I live right in the middle. So you wouldn't think a Bigfoot would come there. And I hear this sound. It sounded like it was through a megaphone. I'm going to try to repeat it. It went, oh, like that. And it was like through a megaphone. It was so loud. I couldn't walk because I had a cast from my toes up to my knee, and I was afraid it was going to wake my husband up because it was around 2:30 in the morning, and he had to go to work the next day. So I got on my crutches and turned on the porch light and was trying to scare away whatever was out there. I thought it had to be an animal, even though I'd never heard a sound like that before coming from an animal. And I turned on the porch light, and I came out there with my crutches, loud, banging around, trying to scare it away. It didn't scare it away. It kept going, oh, like that. And then went down the street, started joining in, and it would do the exact same sound, oh. And it was going back and forth for like 15 minutes or so, it seemed to me. And finally, I thought, I'm going to have to record this because the thought was crossing my mind, this has got to be a Bigfoot because it was just so loud sounding, and I'd never heard anything like that before. And my husband was into Bigfoot, so I get on my crutches and go inside and get my iPad and figure out how to try to record. I'd never done that before, and hop back out there on my crutches, and I wasn't allowed to put any weight on my foot yet. I just broke my leg all the way through 3 days before. And I got out there, and the noise is still going on. Oh, and I hit the record button, and it all completely stops. Seemed like somehow they knew I was hitting record. Even the one down the street stopped. And so I got none of the howls on record. And that's how I got into the Bigfoot world. I stayed up for 2.5 hours or 3 hours online looking up ducks, cats, frogs, everything I could think of that could possibly make a sound even close to it. Couldn't find it, trying to stay in denial that was a Bigfoot. And then finally, I went online to a Bigfoot website where it said Bigfoot audio howls, and I found the exact same howl that I heard, and it was called the Ohio Howl there. So I knew then that was a Bigfoot that was in my yard, and I stayed up all night to tell my husband, first thing in the morning, we had a Bigfoot in the yard. Now, I hadn't seen it yet. I had just heard the howls and matched nothing like I'd ever heard before except on the website. So now we're staying up at night, listening for the Bigfoot, and we're hearing bipedal walking almost every night in the yard and howls in the distance. And I come out sometimes right before dark, and I sit on my porch, and I hear ooh, 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 come from the edge of my tree line. In our subdivision, they left up a tree line in the back of everybody's houses. They do that a lot in Georgia. They don't take down the trees in the woods right in the back of the lot. So we have this small strip of a tree line. And then I'd come out another day and sit down on my porch, and I would hear ooh, 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 at me again right from behind the trees, and it started to turn dark, and I couldn't see what it was, but they were talking to me out loud, and I didn't know anything about the Bigfoot. I had never watched a Bigfoot TV show. I had never read a Bigfoot book, and I didn't even know there were Bigfoot Facebook groups online. So I absolutely knew nothing, but I knew that was a Bigfoot in the woods talking to me. And I thought, well, that sounds cute. And I didn't know that they could be scary or anything, so I didn't have any fear because I knew nothing about them. And, my husband was watching shows, and he said, people say they like to be gifted apples. Now, my deck in my living area is upstairs, and I couldn't get down the stairs easily with the crutches and a big old huge cast and not being able to put any weight on it. So he got me some apples, and I started throwing them over the deck for the Bigfoot. Well, I guess one night one got too close to the Bigfoot, or maybe I hit one, I don't know, because this is where I had to be careful to not put my human thoughts on their actions. But, it sounded like I got chewed out. It was like the Bigfoot said something to us. We don't know what, but it was real fast. It was like, "Arr!" And it sounded like it was grumbling and mad at us. So I don't know if I did something, got the apple too close to a Bigfoot, or if it was just warning me to not get one too close to a youngster or what. But then it sounded like 2 or 3 of them just took off and ran out of the woods, out of our yard. And then I was afraid I lost them for good. I had already started caring for the Bigfoot, and I wanted them to come back. And I just kept apologizing into my yard like 3 nights in a row, hoping they would hear. And then 3 nights later, we heard them come back in the yard, and the bipedal steps. I don't know if you heard bipedal walking before. It is really, really loud when it comes from a Bigfoot because they're big. And let me see if I can do it in these shoes. It's like, it's real obvious, you can hear them when they're walking in your yard, and they sound much louder than a normal person. And finally, I got where I could walk, and I went down in my yard one day, and I had a bag of peanuts because I'd switched from apples to peanuts because I was afraid of hitting a Bigfoot on the head with an apple. And so I started throwing raw unsalted peanuts over the deck because they were lightweight, and I thought if it hit a little baby Bigfoot, it wouldn't hurt it. And so, and it's definitely not enough to feed a Bigfoot. It'd maybe be a tiny little snack, but, it's my way of gifting. So I had a bag of raw and salted peanuts, and I was walking into the woods, and these 2 big trails had appeared in my backyard in my wood line. Huge trails, not like a deer trail. They were about this wide, and or maybe even wider. They appeared in my backyard after the first howling. So I was going down one of the trails, and all of a sudden, there were 2 Bigfoot standing right in front of me. And Melissa, can you come up here for a minute, please? Yes. This is my girlfriend, Melissa, here in Georgia. Okay, I'm going to show you how close the Bigfoot. She's the Bigfoot, one of them. And come a little closer. Okay. It was about right here was the Bigfoot from me. It was in my arm's length, and there were 2 of them standing there. Thank you so much. Yes. And one was about my height, and then one was about a head taller behind it, and it was off a little to the side like that, standing behind it like it was protecting the one in the front. Thank you very much for being my Bigfoot. And so that was a surprise for me. I'd never seen a Bigfoot, and here I am walking in my backyard with a bag of peanuts, and all of a sudden there's 2 Bigfoot standing right in front of me. And it seems like they were already there because I never heard them walk up. So it kind of seemed like they knew I was coming and standing there waiting for me. And I just went, wow, really loud when I saw them because the eyes looked beautiful. It had turned dark in my subdivision, and we have street lights and house lights and all that, so it's not completely dark, but so what I saw was a silhouette of them, of 2 of them, and they had this eye shine coming out, and it was beautiful, beautiful, bright LED green, and it was flaring out of their eyes like that. And before that, I seriously thought I was dealing with some kind of ape or something because of the ooh, ooh, ooh sounds. But then when I stood in front of them and they were standing up just like us on 2 legs and standing up straight, and they had these green eyes coming out, I thought, that's not an animal. I am not dealing with animals. And that was when I thought, okay, what am I dealing with here? And I didn't know who to talk to. I was afraid if I told my best friends even, they would think I was crazy. So I kept it a secret. I kept it a secret for a very long time. And, all kinds of things started happening. We had so many great encounters and adventures with them. And what I was going to talk to you about is some of the structures they make. When they were in our yard, we had these things that popped up in our yard overnight. I didn't know anything about the Bigfoot, so I didn't know they made structures. I didn't even know to look for footprints. I didn't know anything, but I did notice things were popping up. On one of the trails, we were walking down, and one night, smack in the middle of the trail was this stick jammed in the ground. And then there was another one right next to it. And I said to my husband, I don't remember them being trees right there in the middle of the trail before. And they were about this high. And he said, we must have just not remembered them. So we come out the next night, and the exact same trees now are this high. And it was like, okay, the trees didn't grow overnight. So I picked one up, and it was jammed in the ground. So obviously, the Bigfoot were jamming sticks into the ground to see if we would notice, because they were sticking them right smack in the middle of the trail. So that was my first experience with structures. And, we knew we didn't have any people in our yard. And I'll show you a ground stick here. This is actually my backyard. This is one that is here right now. Down at the bottom, it is weighted down by a branch, but I couldn't get it in the picture good. Most of the structures that were there have fallen apart. It was 5 years ago that the Bigfoot came to my yard, and they've rotted and they've fallen apart, which was really sad to see, but it also taught me something huge. It taught me when I run into a structure in the woods, I haven't been there for over maybe 3 years, unless they're still alive. This one is still rooted in the ground, so it can stay alive, but when they're broken and put together, there's nothing to keep them from rotting away. So when you find a structure in the woods, if it's not rooted, it most likely isn't over 3 years old, because mine did not last past that age. So this is one. And then what's interesting is, I had never gone outside of my yard to look for Bigfoot before. And then all of a sudden, when I went to the Bigfoot Museum, they put me in a Bigfoot group on Facebook, and that's how I got to know Arla and many others here that are in that group. And I went to a camp out with them, and that was my first experience of seeing a Bigfoot outside of my yard. I didn't know if I would see one or not, but the interesting thing is I saw the same structures at our campouts that I was seeing in my yard. The same places the Bigfoot were. They had the same kind of structures. So here is one. This is one I found outside of my yard. See how the tree even looks twisted, like maybe they twisted it in the bending, and then see how it's anchored with the tree to hold it down there? And not only that, it has an X below that. X is also another common structure that we see among them. When they were in my yard, one side of my woods got lined with X's. Now, when the X's appeared on the side of my yard, I felt like that was saying they were welcome there, because I had befriended the Bigfoot. I was gifting them, and I was talking to them. And so it definitely wasn't saying, keep out, we're not welcome here. I felt like it was saying, they were telling the other Bigfoot, it wasn't meant for me, it was meant for the other Bigfoot, letting them know that they were welcome in my yard. Okay, here's some more X's. This is not my yard. This is another place where I've had encounters at. And once again, I find the same structures, or, the same markings. That's not the same structure, but the same markings, the X's like I had in my yard. This is another one I found that I thought was really interesting. And once again, it's got the X's. This one actually has an arch inside it also. It doesn't completely show on here. Right here is an arch that's actually pinned inside there. So this is a bunch of X's with an arch. And what's interesting on this one is it is twisted around this, so it can't be natural tree fall. Something actually took part of one of the branches and twisted around it right there. I was taught to do forensics on a lot of the structures to try to rule out natural tree fall because, of course, two trees can fall together and make an X. So what I do is I check the bottoms to see if they rotted. I check to see if I can find where the tree came from. If it broke off way over there and the X is over here, that doesn't make sense how it got over there. See what I mean? That's not natural. So I can't prove that a Bigfoot made anything unless I see the Bigfoot make it itself. But I can rule out things. I can rule out natural tree fall in cases where things are twisted or it doesn't make sense. And so let me go on and move on to another. Now this one is in my yard right now. This is the interwoven asterisk I was telling you about. You can see part of it. See this branch right here? Okay, here's the asterisk. And see how part of it is going inside that branch? So that'd be kind of hard to fall down and go inside that branch. So that told me right there that wasn't natural tree fall, but there was some other parts of it too. These are parts of that asterisk, okay? See here, a part goes up underneath this branch right here too. So it had to slide in there. And then the same here, we have parts, this is a branch coming out, and this is part of the asterisk going up underneath that branch. See what I mean? That can't be natural tree fall. Something had to place it there. Now, this is an asterisk in my yard. I know I had the Bigfoot in my yard because I saw them. They talked to me. They even sounded like one tried to say the word apple to me one time when I had an apple in my hand. We went, ooh, ooh, ah, oh, like that. And so now this is a new asterisk. This is my favorite one I ever found. Look at that. Does that look like natural tree fall to you? I did do the forensics on it anyhow to see where each branch came from and how it got there. And some of them didn't make sense, but that's kind of you just don't run into that every day. At this place, I have actually had encounters with the Bigfoot where I found this asterisk. So that's what it shows. A commonality here. They were in my yard where the Bigfoot were, and I'm finding them in places where I have encounters with the Bigfoot. One time I was walking here in the daytime with my friend Jonathan, who's around here somewhere. There he is. And we were walking down a trail, and he stopped and he did 3 tree knocks. And that's something the Bigfoot do is called tree knocks. And lots of times they'll do it in 3s. And so Jonathan went whop, whop, whop on a tree, and we had the longest silence, and then all of a sudden, from behind the green bushes in front of us, the Bigfoot started talking out loud. That was a bad mistake. And the Bigfoot started talking out loud at us, and me and Jonathan were both like, whoa, we didn't expect that. And it was in the afternoon around 3:30, and that's the area where this came from. So once again, these things are found in, it seems like, in the areas where the Bigfoot are. So when I want to find a new area to go look for the Bigfoot, I look for things like this. And that gives me a sign that the Bigfoot are in that area. This, again, is another asterisk. See how it goes around the tree, a big, huge one? This is actually something different than a structure, but I wanted to share this because this is something really cool. Like I said, the Bigfoot to me are my friends and family, just like Arla and other people are here to me. They're family to me. They're more than friends. And one time I was going through a really hard time a couple years ago. I was having a lot of trauma. And I felt alone, and I'm gonna tear up. So, I have a gifting spot in my backyard where I put gifts for the Bigfoot. And I was talking on my phone to Anita in my backyard, telling her what I was going through. and I looked at my gifting spot, and this rock was sitting on it. Now, if you look at it, it kind of looks like a Bigfoot face. It has the dome head, and it has the brow line and the deeper set eyes and all. And it's made of quartz. And that was on my gifting stump. I felt like that was the Bigfoot letting me know that they were there with me, because it just appeared on my gifting stump. And then we were having a camp out come up with my friends, so I brought it with me to show them, and I had it in my pocket that night around the campfire, just playing with it, and I guess the Bigfoot were around the campfire watching us. And Jonathan walked me straight from the fire to my tent. And I took the rock out of my pocket, and I sat it next to my bed inside my tent. Okay, and I'll go to bed, and all of a sudden, I start hearing the Bigfoot come running by my tent. You heard that. And they went by Jonathan's tent down to Arla's tent, and I couldn't hear them when they got that far, but Jonathan told me the next day. And he said he would hear Arla giggle, and they'd run back by Jonathan's tent and come up to mine, and I'd giggle, run back by Jonathan's tent to Arla and back and forth. And then the next day, we woke up, and I couldn't find my rock. And I knew I had sat it right next to the bed. So I walked down to the fire, and I didn't tell anybody because I was embarrassed. I lost my Bigfoot rock. That was so important to me. They gave it to me at a time when I was really needing to know that they were there for me. I mean, who doesn't want a big, huge, hairy friend as a friend, Especially when you're going through a hard time. So I was so upset I lost my Bigfoot rock, and I was looking everywhere, and I could not find it. And then Jonathan and Arla and I went and got in my car to go to Walmart, and Jonathan opens up my hatchback of my SUV, and there was my rock. So it had been taken out of my tent that night and put in my car. And I have a feeling it was the people that was running by our tent, So I wanted to share that story because I thought that was a pretty cool one. They gave me my rock back. Now, this is a ground stick. This was what I was telling you. This is the first structure I ever found. We were walking down the trail, and we saw sticks this height, and then the next day they were about that height in the exact same place. And that's when I pulled it out of the ground and noticed there was no roots. They were jammed in the ground. And this is one that's in my yard. If you pull it out, there's no roots. It looks just like a broken tree, but we call these ground sticks because if you take them out, they are broke at the bottom. I have found them upside down and everything, the tree upside down, jammed in. And in fact, some people found some trees where the roots were still up at the top, jammed, the whole big trees jammed in. So we call these ground sticks. Now, this is what I call a glyph. A lot of people call these glyphs. They're language of their own they use, just like we write with the alphabet. They can write using all different kinds of things. And this is one way they communicate sometimes is with glyphs. Now, this is interesting story behind it. This is where I found that big star you just saw. I was there one night. I was by myself, and I was hearing a barred owl. And Sam Chandler, that spoke before me, he used to go hiking with me in the woods, and he taught me how to speak to barred owls. And he taught me that if you call back at them, they will keep calling back and come closer and closer to you. So that's how I tell the difference, because Bigfoot can make barred owl sounds real, real good. So I heard the barred owl, and I really, truly thought it was a barred owl. And I was going, hoo, 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 back at it, and it would do it back. And then I did it again, and it stopped. And I thought, that's weird. Why is the owl not talking to me anymore? And next thing you know, I hear, come walking right up to me, and it's pitch dark. Now it was behind me. I had my back turned. I was, just kind of twirling around, playing with the Bigfoot and being outside in the night stars. And I turn around expecting to see eye shine, and instead I got hoot real loud right at my face. And that took me by surprise because I was expecting to see eye shine. So I took off running. And And then I thought, calm down, Ginger. The Bigfoot's not chasing you. That is your imagination running wild. And that can happen when you get around something you're not used to. Your imagination can run wild. So I calmed down and, it wasn't chasing me. And I started walking to my car and I thought I need to stand my ground. But I wasn't too brave to stand my ground right in front of the Bigfoot. So I stood behind my car, and I was, I think, texting Jonathan and Bill and Lori, telling them that I just got hooted at, and I thought it was an owl. And then here I hear the bipedal footsteps coming up to my car, and I didn't want to get hooted at again. I had enough of that. That scared the crap out of me. So I just said, thank you for allowing me here, which was kind of hard because I was kind of mad at it then for scaring me. But I said, thank you for allowing me onto your land. And I got in my car and I left. And the next day I came back looking for evidence of the encounter to see if I could find maybe where just some branches were broken or some footprints or something. And this is where it was left there. This is right exactly where I had the encounter. And that is not tree fall. And you can see it's really small twigs. So it had to be recent because wind, a squirrel would have easily knocked that away. And that was right where I had the encounter the night before. So that was really interesting. So it's kind of interesting to follow up sometimes to see if they leave something for you. I think most of the time the glyphs are for them and the structures, but I do think sometimes they're made for us to see. And in this case, I felt this was, since it was left right there. And like the sticks that were stuck in the middle of the path, they were made for us to see. But I think most of them are meant for them. It's their communication. So it's not all meant for us. And we try to apply one definition. What does the X mean? What does the asterisk mean? Well, you got to think about it. We have words that have more than one definition. If you take the word bow, it could mean a hair bow. It could mean a bow like this. So maybe some of their structures mean more than one thing. It'd be much easier if they just had one definition and we could just say, oh, the X stands for welcome on everything. But it could have more than one meaning. And, or the asterisk stands for all is one, but maybe it has more than one meaning sometimes, depending on how it's used. Okay, this is another glyph that I found that was interwoven. And this is another thing they make a lot, is an A structure. See right here how the stick goes inside through there and comes out there? So that couldn't have fallen that way. And then here it's under and then up over there. And see, then it makes an A. So I try to look at them to see if it could be natural or, I couldn't figure out how that could be natural. Now, here's some more X's. I was showing some example of more X's that I find in the woods in the areas where I have encounters at. There's an example of a large A. See, their structures can come in all different sizes and different shapes. And I wanted to show you guys what the eye shine can look like. It can be different colors, it can be different sizes, it can be different brightnesses, but a lot of people don't know what to look for. I like looking for the Bigfoot at night. That was a lucky catch. Did y'all see that? But because to me, it's easier to spot them because of the eye shine, because they are so good at camouflaging and hiding themselves. So here is a picture of eye shine I got. This is a screenshot from a video from one night when I was talking to the Bigfoot. They were moving around, and this isn't zoomed in some, I wasn't that close. But it looks kind of like a flashlight. They can be different colors, but sometimes it can look like a flashlight. Around here, we call it the flashlight effect a lot. It'll look like flashlights moving through the woods, because at night you can't see the body being dark, but that bright white light can stand out. Now, the first time I came across Bigfoot, their eyes were green. Now, these were white. I've also seen one that had blue coming out and changed to green right in front of my eyes. So they can be different colors. And don't worry about the color. man's thoughts on it, because remember, they are not us, they are a different kind of people. It would be like us, trying to think like a cat or a dog. I mean, we can't put our thoughts, they're not animals, but we can't put our thoughts on them. They think differently than us. And I think about it. I think one reason we may be scared of them is we didn't grow up with them. Some people have, like Arlo grew up with them since she was young, so she was never taught to be afraid of them. And I have been around the Bigfoot so many times in my backyard alone and other places. Never, ever, ever have I been hurt. Never have they ever tried to attack me or anything. Now, I do treat them respectfully. They are big, and it just seems like the sensible thing to do, to treat something that big respectfully. And so I definitely would say to do that. But their eye colors can change, and some people think red means, warning or whatever. It's just a color. Elephants are really large, and they can be really loud, and they have this really weird trunk coming down from them. But when we were kids, we were taught about them. So, if we saw an elephant, it wouldn't scare us. If it was in our backyard, it probably would, because it was not supposed to be there. But we are used to it. But if you think about it, they're really loud. If we'd never been taught about them, we'd probably freak out the first time we saw them. If we had grown up with books that said, D for dog, E for elephant, B for Bigfoot, we probably wouldn't be scared when we ran into a Bigfoot. So if you ever go looking for a Bigfoot, try to keep an open mind with them. And, try to just be respectful. And I bet you'll get kind of the same treatment back from them. I'm trying to see how much time I have left. How much? So I'll share about 13 minutes, okay. I'll share about some more, my first time that I saw Bigfoot outside of my yard. I was with Anita and some of these other people here, and the first night, we saw these white lights like this. They were down the road, and they were waving like this. And my husband said, "Are those Boy Scouts with flashlights?" And I thought, well, why would they be doing this with their light, And then all of a sudden, the lights completely disappeared, and there were two Bigfoot in front of us. And one of them was down on the ground. We've nicknamed him Nightcrawler, and he's the one who had blue eyes, and it changed to green right in front of me. And one of them was standing up with white eye shine. So see, that's what I mean. Now, when animals, you can shine a light on them, and they will reflect back a color. That's not what the Bigfoot do. They make their own light. It comes from within. You don't have to shine a light on them. They shine the light out and make the color themselves from their own selves. And it's not a reflection, which that's when I knew when I walked up and saw that, because I wasn't shining a light on the Bigfoot when the lights were coming out. That's when I knew I wasn't dealing with an animal. There's no animal that I know of that can do that. And there were some other things they showed me that were really, really amazing that made me realize I was dealing with something extremely intelligent. One time, one was on my roof. And every room I went to, it was walking right above me. It wasn't following me. It was walking with my steps at the exact same time right above me. I went to every single room in the house, and it stayed above me. And it was loud. You could really hear it easily on the roof. And I thought, how does it know where I'm going? And even if it could hear me, it would be a step behind me, but it wasn't. It was with me. So it taught me somehow they're connecting to me, to my mind or my spirit. And I would try to record them over and over again in my yard. And I would try to record the bipedal stepping. I'd get 2 steps, and they would stop. And they would stand there as long as they needed to, for me to give up on recording them. And so they knew stuff was going on, and I realized they were reading my thoughts and tapping into my mind. When I stepped out onto my porch, and I didn't even believe in the Bigfoot, so my mind really had to open up for all this. When I stepped out on my porch, immediately they would start running down the hill right at me. So I mean, it's like they were always knew what I was doing. And then I went to this other park, and the first night I was there, I had a Bigfoot walking next to me. My husband said, that's where we're going tonight, actually. My husband said, Ginger, did you know you have a Bigfoot walking next to you? And I didn't know. It must have been walking with me because I never heard it. And I turned to the side, and it was about right there, and it had its eye shine on. It was dark, but I could see it because its white eye shine was on. And sure enough, it had been paralleling me down the trail. Bigfoot will parallel you, but I'd only heard them paralleling me before. I'd never seen one. This one had its eye shine on, and it was walking right next to me on the trail. And then I went camping somewhere else, and that's, for the first time, I got the rock taken. And then I was laying on a bridge and waiting for Jonathan, and we were going to go on a night walk. And I was looking up at the stars, and then I looked down, and there was a Bigfoot right there on the other side of the bridge looking at me with its white eye shine on. And then it was happening to me over and over again when I went to a brand new place. And they say you got to really get to know the Bigfoot good before they will show themselves to you. Well, these are brand new places I had never been before. So it seemed to me that once you connect to them, they all know you. Like they're all connected. Because that's the only way it could make sense to me that I could go to a brand new place and see a Bigfoot. And then I went to Washington last year with Arla and some people, and I was walking down a trail the first day there, and I get a whoop, and I was by myself. That's a noise that the Bigfoot make. So it happened to me in Washington, a state I had never been in. I had a Bigfoot encounter, and so I do believe they must all be connected somehow, because how do they all know me everywhere I go? So I think once you connect, you stay connected, and then they can know your thoughts and, keep up with you and be there for you. And it can be a really great thing to have a good relationship with the Bigfoot people. I think of them as just another kind of people. They have human DNA. Some DNA has been gotten. They just look different than us. They have more hair than us. They're bigger than us, and they can come in different shapes and sizes. I've seen one real skinny, and I've seen them come in different forms. One time I was sitting in my backyard, and my husband came out and I was just talking to the Bigfoot. For a while, I was just sitting out there every night just talking to them, hoping they would hear. So I was trying to get my relationship closer and closer with them, because I figured if I want to learn about the Bigfoot, the best way to do it is to have a close relationship with them. So I would just tell them about my day every day. And my husband came and he turned on the porch light. I didn't know to be afraid. And he turned on the porch light and he said, honey, are you out there? And I looked up at the porch light, and all of a sudden a Bigfoot walked right in front of me. And I wouldn't have been able to see it if he hadn't turned on the porch light, because it was dark outside. But the strange thing was, when it was walking in front of me, I could still see my husband and the porch and the house through the Bigfoot. It was see-through. No. He was on the porch, and I was in the woods, and the wood line is real close to the porch, but he couldn't see it from where he was. And it went over to these two parallel trees. And I'm trying to answer my husband back, but I'm completely distracted here. And I thought, am I losing my mind? Because I had no idea that Bigfoot could do stuff like that. Because this is before I got into the Bigfoot group and got Bigfoot friends. And I turned my head away and shook my head like that, thinking I must be imagining things. And I looked back, and it was still see-through. So I thought, okay, this is really real, and it started merging into these two parallel trees, and I could only see about that much. And it just kept merging and merging, when I saw it that much then, and then it just completely disappeared. And I didn't know what happened, because I didn't know anybody in the Bigfoot world. I was afraid to tell anybody about that, and I kept it a secret for a long time, except I told my husband, and because I thought people would totally think I'm crazy. And then I heard people start talking about cloaked Bigfoot, and I thought that's what I saw, was a cloaked Bigfoot. And they started talking about, they believe that Bigfoot can maybe travel, through other dimensions and go through portals. And I thought, is that what happened? Did I see a Bigfoot go through a portal? I don't know for sure because the Bigfoot didn't tell me that's what it did. But that's the only thing that could make sense to me from what I saw and from what I've heard they could do. And I had a similar thing happen. They say the Bigfoot could follow you home sometimes. Or after my first camp out, the week after, I'd stayed with Anita. She was left behind, and we had some huge Bigfoot experiences. I was visiting her, and I came home, and I looked in my neighbor's backyard, and this big round circle appeared, and it was half orange at the top and half red at the bottom, and it had a horizon line, it looked like, cutting through the orange and the red. And it was dithered, and it kind of blended in with the night. You could barely see it. And I turned my head around, and I didn't know if I wanted to see it because I'd seen so many crazy things that were blowing my mind. It was really getting a little too much for me to handle. And I thought, turn back and look, Ginger, or you'll be sorry because you will never know what you saw. So I turned back and looked, and the circle disappeared, and there was a Bigfoot standing there then, and with bright white almond-shaped eyes. He didn't have them out rounded. They were almond-shaped, just like you and I, but there was no pupils or anything in between. It was just pure white, like light or energy. And it started walking towards my yard, and then it turned into the wooded area, and I couldn't see it anymore. It turned its back to us. But so I have seen some things I can't explain. I don't know what happened then. I messaged my friends and said, what is that I saw? All we can do is try our best to interpret what we see. And that's all we can do. I'm 5 more minutes? 3 minutes. Okay, I'll talk about something had an experience I had with Anita. Book. Oh, this is very important. Thank you, Anita. Anita's helping me write a Bigfoot book. We didn't get it done before the conference. We were busy, but that's going to be coming out this next year. So I'm hoping you guys look for it, and that'll be sharing more of my experiences and things. And actually, I had a structure I wanted to show you guys. I actually have a structure with me. Okay, this is not from my research area, though. This is from a lady named Anita Libacek. She actually designed these T-shirts, and we have one of them for auction over there. She designed some cards over there that are adorable Bigfoot cards, and she designed a lot of this stuff, our speaker posters and everything. And the Bigfoot cards have little Bigfoot stickers you can put on them. But when I went to Washington with my friends, and Jonathan and Narla and all, she took us to her research area to show us the twists. Bigfoot will weave and twist things. I decorated this for Christmas, so please disregard my red ribbons. But she cut this off. Normally on these trees, see how the branches stick out like this? They weaved them like that. She even had a big heart that one made too that was weaved. So she cut this off and gave it to me. I thought that would be neat to show you. See how the branches normally go like this? And if I try to move one of those, it will break. They break real easy, don't they, Anita? I mean, you barely bend it and it's broke. So I don't know how they managed to twist, but she has, that's what they do in her area. So I wanted to actually show you guys a part of what we believe to be a Bigfoot structure. What's interesting is she knows someone in another state that has these popping up in their research area too. Anita was left behind in Georgia once. From a hurricane, she was stuck here after one of our campouts. And so Jonathan was calling me to come visit her. And so my husband and I would go out there and visit her at night. And she cooks really good. She cooked all the food last night. And I guess Bigfoot smelled it. And we were playing with the fire and all. And then when the fire went out, my heart started racing. I could feel them coming. A lot of people say they can feel their energy, and I felt them coming. And next thing I know, I heard the real loud sounding ones. Like there were some big ones coming in. And I had him visiting my yard almost every night for 2 years. So I kind of learned the sound of the steps, which ones sound heavier and which ones don't. And sounded like 3 moved in that way, and then some were moving this way, like they were making a circle around us. So Anita looks at me, and I'm watching, the sounds of the steps, and she hops up in the middle of the circle to stand up, like, oh, what is going on? And then my husband hops up too, and so I get in the middle of him and put my arms around him, because it can be very intimidating, and when the Bigfoot are around, even though they've never hurt us and they've been nothing but good to us, it can just be intimidating a little sometimes. And one of them came over to her stove, and you saw the aluminum foil get picked up and just looked under and then put back down. And so she went to sleep that night with a Bigfoot around her tent. I mean, how safer can you get? I'm sure no animals will come around, although I think they all get along. We're all one. We're all friends. And thank you all. I believe my time is up.